Hi there guys, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero show with me, your host Simon Conboy. Today's episode we're going to be previewing one of the best matchups of week 2 as Green Bay head to Atlanta to the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, Mercedes-Benz Dome, I don't know, Atlanta's new stadium. One of the premier matchups, rematch of last year's NFC title game where the Falcons blew them out. Both teams coming off of week 1 wins. The Packers, the more impressive of the two teams in week 1, Atlanta eked out a tough victory over the Bears, but it's a game where they would have been heavily favoured. So I think this one's going to be an important game come the end of the season. It's one I'm definitely looking forward to. So I'm going to start with the matchup on the Green Bay offense. The Green Bay offense up against the Falcons defense, because that was the matchup that really changed this game last year. Aaron Rodgers just was unable to go toe for toe with Matt Ryan. Falcons were able to get a lot of pressure on him in that game, force a few mistakes, and the Packers just kept shooting themselves in the foot. That game got out of hand early. They're going to have revenge on their mind. Hard to read too much into their performance last week. I thought they did a solid job against Seahawks in the second half. First half was a bit of a mess. How much of their late success came to the Seahawks just being gassed is tough to know at this point in time. In the end, Aaron Rodgers was looking really sharp, but that first half was certainly a poor showing. So that's going to be interesting to see. The Falcons defence, I thought they underperformed in week 1 as well. Didn't get as much pressure on Mike Glennon as I would have expected. Beasley had a sack, but was pretty quiet for the rest of the game against what I still consider a pretty mediocre pair of tackles. I didn't see too much from the rest of that defensive front seven. They were solid against the run, considering the ability the Bears have to run the ball, especially with Jordan Howard. Secondary wasn't really tested, so hard to know where they're at this point in time. The defense played okay, but they were unable to make any particularly big splashy plays, and they certainly could have lost the game at the end. And really, with the drops that the Bears had, the Bears weren't stopped by the Falcons, but they kind of managed to shoot themselves in the foot. And I think this is a pretty good matchup for the Packers, in spite of what happened last year. They looked sharp in that second half, as I say. Randall Cobb got heavily involved. He looked healthy for the first time in a while. Jordy Nelson looked like Jordy Nelson. Devontae Adams got involved. Bennett, I think, is a huge addition. He gives the team the ability to... I don't know if Brian Bulaga is going to be back this week, but he gives them the ability to actually help out one of those tackles with an exceptional blocking tight end, and also to offer a receiving threat over the middle with some size, which is something they've not really utilised often in the last few years. I thought Ty Montgomery looked pretty good, and really, at the end of the day, he's still a receiver that's playing running back. I expect he can present some problems out of the backfield for this team. And Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. His mobility will stand him in good stead against a pretty active and fast Falcons team. I just don't know really if this Falcons secondary is going to be able to hold up. The way the Packers attack you, it is so diverse. You get the short routes with Cobb and Adams. They're both fantastic after the catch. Jordy Nelson's got that chemistry with Rodgers. He'll catch the deep stuff, the intermediate stuff. They're very unpredictable in their passing game. Deadly on the play action. Of course, Aaron Rodgers throws the best ball on the run. Don't expect to see too much running from the Packers. Just enough to try and keep the linebackers somewhat honest. But I don't think they'll have a huge amount of success. As I say, the Falcons defended the run pretty well last week. I thought Dontari Poe looked okay in his debut. Grady Jackson's an ascending player. I think that's going to be tough sledding. The interior of the Packers line, I don't particularly trust either. So it's going to come down to Rodgers and his receivers, as it often does. Desmond Trufant's going to have a big game against Jordan Nelson, of course, his favourite weapon. If he does, then I can see the Falcons having some success. If you can take away that Jordy one-on-one, then it gives you a lot more options. I think you can then you can sit with sort of a too deep shell and have your players see how things develop, get there quickly. If you're the Packers, I think you've just got to keep it varied, as I suggested. Move Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb around, try and expose what the Falcons are doing, because they will come with a blitz every now and then. If Rodgers can find out where it is, he can escape and make a quick play, can make quick passes. These guys are really good after the catch. And the Falcons aren't the biggest team. There is certainly the opportunity to break some tackles in the secondary. Keanu Neal's going to have a big day. He's only in his second year. I think he'll be far more tested than he was when these teams faced off in the playoffs last season. So, yeah, if you're the Falcons, you've got to mix it up. I think you've got to keep containing this game. Aaron Rodgers is at his most dangerous when he's able to get outside. They've got the guys to do that in Beasley and McKinley. Whether that ends up happening remains to be seen. If they can get some push from the middle, then I think they can have a lot of success in this game. I think that's where this matchup is going to be won and lost. The success Grady Jarrett and Dontari Poe can have. Feel good about their linebackers. I think they'll do an okay job on Bennett. But I just think the depth at receiver, that's the question mark. So they're going to have to try and keep Aaron Rodgers contained. Otherwise, I think the amount of weapons he's got will just be too much for this defence. So I expect to see some blitzing from the Falcons for sure. I just expect it to be in the right situations. I think they'll play the run pretty conservatively, but I don't expect them to be troubled too heavily in this matchup. On the other side of the ball, Falcons offense, very underwhelming in week 1. The offensive line underperformed for me. Didn't have a great day. Akeem Hicks was very, very active on the interior. They struggled to deal with him. Leonard Floyd managed to get some good pressure. It's just slightly concerning because I think the Packers, whilst I have issues with the Packers defence, and it's very hard to judge them at this point because the Seahawks offensive line was so poor in that week 1 matchup that it is just impossible to know what to make of them. The secondary wasn't tested at all because Wilson just could not throw. Mike Daniels went absolutely bonkers on the interior. Nick Perry played well. It's definitely not the game to be judging whether this Packers defence has significantly improved or not. Similarly, Falcons, it may have just been a poor performance. If you're looking at it from a personnel perspective, the Falcons should win this matchup. Their offensive line is good. The Packers' pass rush is okay. But the inexperience in the secondary should cost them. I think the Packers are also pretty soft in the backer position. I think Tevin Coleman and Devonta Freeman present huge matchup problems for this team when they're used in the receiving game. I also think they might struggle to handle the run game, frankly, although the Falcons really did struggle with that aspect when they were playing at the weekend. So if you're the Packers, what you've got to do is just keep Matt Ryan guessing. I think they've got to offer varied fronts. I don't think they can afford to come too often. I think their corners, their lack of experience, they're going to have to pay a lot of attention to Julio Jones. Ladarius Gunt is probably going to have that responsibility. He's not good enough. They're going to have a safety shading at all times there. Otherwise, Julio's just going to go absolutely crazy on them, you have to think. But then Taylor Gabriel, I think he offers a tough matchup. No real speed threat in I don't know if there's a corner that can run with them on that Green Bay roster. Clinton Dix is going to be tested. I think they're going to have to try and play a lot of cover 3 type situations and offer help to Julio underneath and just have all eyes on him. And I'm not sure that's a great recipe when you've got the issues that the Packers do across the rest of the defence. I think they'll be able to run block better in this game. I'm not sure this Packers front's as stout against the run. Mike Daniels could cause them some problems. Their front didn't look great. Maybe Nick Perry, Clay Matthews can have big days. I think that's going to need to happen. They're definitely going to need to get some edge pressure in this matchup. I can't see too much coming from the interior other than Mike Daniels. And they can't afford to blitz. often. In the right situation, they'll pick their spots because it is Dom Capers after all. But I think they're going to have to be very, very careful where they do it, particularly with Austin Hooper. Alright, it was only 2 catches, but I expect him to be a bigger part of the offense. Don't know how well they match up one-on-one with Gabriel and Mohamed Sanu. If you're the Falcons, I think you just go into this game and think if you just throw your whole playbook at them, you play a night. You've got Coleman running some stretches to the outside. You use Freeman up the middle, but use both in the passing game. Use Julio as a decoy for some early plays. Have him and Gabriel on the same side. I think you just present too many problems for this Packers defense to answer effectively. The Packers, I think they're going to have to try and rely on the big play. I don't think they've got the talent to stop this Falcons defense consistently. So I think they're going to have to time their blitzes up well. I think they're going to have to show some really mixed multiple coverages, try and force Matt Ryan into making a mistake, and they're just going to have to do everything they can to stop Julio. The run game, they're going to have to play contain really well, because I think if this pair of runners can get the edge, and then it opens up the middle, things get even worse for this Green Bay front seven, who I've got some concerns about. And all in all, I mean, I kind of want to take the Packers to win this one based on their performance in week 1. I think the Falcons came out a bit flat. However, I think that's probably the kind of spark the Falcons need. This is a much bigger game. I think they'll be a lot more up for it. Of course, they're opening their new home stadium. I think they come out with a point to prove. I think people are, including myself, as you can see in this video, are kind of questioning what they are after that, especially with the offense. Obviously with Shanahan departing for the Niners, things don't look as positive after 1 week. I think they come out with a point to prove, and I think they prove it. I think they beat up on this Packers defense. Those question marks start to rise again, and I just think Aaron Rodgers just struggles to keep up. We have a shootout on our hands here, in my opinion, but I just trust the Falcons defense more than I trust the Packers to get a stop or an interception, a sack, in a big moment where it counts. And I like the balance the Falcons have as well. I just think it allows them to control the ball more. And as we see this Green Bay defense tire, I think those big play opportunities will be even bigger for them. So there you have it. That's my assessment of possibly the best matchup of week 2. What do you guys think? Is there anything you feel like I've missed out? Any matchups you've got your own? Let me know, whether it's in the comment section below, the Cover Zero Facebook page, or you can find me on Twitter at Simon Conboy. That's the one. Yep, remember my own name. I'm clever like that. Thank you so much for watching. I've got a couple other previews for this weekend up. Buccaneers and the Bears. Going to do the Vikings and Saints if that's not up already. Probably Miami and LA as well. The Dolphins Chargers game. I think that'll probably be another one that I do. And maybe Dallas and Denver if I've got time. Try and squeeze as many of these things out as possible. So check those out. There's plenty of other stuff, reviews for some of the week 1 games. The weekly roundtable is always worth checking out. We're hoping to actually do a live stream of that next week. More details on that in future episodes. If that ends up being the case, I will confirm it as soon as I can. Really do appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe, check out the Patreon, all that good stuff. You'll be my hero if you do so. And mainly, thank you so much for watching. It's been a pleasure as always. Have a great evening, and go Bucks.